For those who have forgotten, Ardent Church was told last October during our 2 weeks of prayer that this year, 2022, that is this year, right, is the year of correction. And a lot of other churches, they have these slogans that are like catchy, or it's all fun-loving, like it sounds exciting, we want to be there. Not ours, not ours, no. God's like, I see all this. You need some work. You need a facelift. We need some correction. Lots to do. Little time to do it in. So that's what he gave us. And if you haven't noticed, basically, the Vault series is nothing but correction. Like God and Jesus, most people, when they quote him, I really feel like I have a completely new understanding for what the parables are telling us, because before it was one of these like, hey, we can make some catchy kid songs, and they seem like so fun. It's like, yeah, how nice. And whenever we get down into it, it's really like he's just slapping us across the face constantly, like, wake up, get to work, be better, all those fun things that no one likes to hear. So for those who want to take a guess, anyone have any clue to what I'm teaching on? Easter. Yeah. So close. Yeah, I thought I'd stay in the same vein, which is the vault. Who knew, right? Who knew? But I told Jared this yesterday, and he thought I was kind of joking, but I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant, okay? So bear with me for the first part of it, because I've actually named my session The Problem with Users. Can you tell? Goes right along with my theme. Not really. But before I do, I wanted to pray with everyone, because a lot of times, I should say, when we hear correction, we're either first like put off by it because it's like, you're talking to me? You're not talking to me. Like, do you know how amazing I am? Because if not, I'm going to tell you about it. But then there's also this other approach where it's like, I'm just down here. Poor pitiful me. Oh my gosh. I can't do it. The ugly crying. Yeah. Know anyone like that? Yeah. I don't want either of those things to happen whenever we move forward. I don't want us to be like, stop before you even start. I don't want that. But I also don't want this whole, poor pitiful me. I'm just going to wallow. I don't want that either. So if you're going to do either of those two things, there's a door. Save yourself some time and misery. Lots of misery. All right. Dear Lord, I've come to you and I pray that while we receive correction from you, that we can take it to heart, learn and grow from it, to see how you want to use it for the betterment of our lives and the lives of those around us. I pray that we don't take this correction as condemnation, but see it for what it is, and it's tough love. Lord, I pray that you let my words, my thoughts be yours today, and I pray that the hearts and minds of everyone who's here is open and ready to receive it. I pray that all the correction that comes our way is used as a tool to motivate us, to inspire us, to lead and guide us, so that we can not only hear what you'd have us to hear, but we can act on it, taking the knowledge that you're imparting into us and using it with wisdom Lord, please help us not to twist your words. Please teach us how to hear what you'd have us hear and not say it means something that it doesn't. I pray that we take it all. We don't omit the parts that are not easy for us. They're not convenient for us. And Lord, as we continue this year of correction, I pray that we first seek it and that you help us to desire it. Lord, give us the desire to desire you, your will, your plan, your purpose, and not our own. And Lord, thank you for continuing to use this for our betterment, only having our hearts as a priority for you, our love and a relationship with you as your priority. As you continue to seek and guide us with patience, with love, with grace and mercy. And Lord, I pray that we continue to follow in your path to learn to do the same. In your name we pray. Amen. I really don't like speaking, and most of that has to do with what I feel like God tries to use me to tell people. I'd like a fun message, and I'd like a nice, inspiring one. I'd want to motivate y'all, encourage you. It must be why I don't speak very often. Next time, yeah. So, the problem with users. First, I wanted to define it. And there's a few, I know Jared hates whenever people are like, let me define this word. But just, Webster's, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to skip over the one about the user of machines and get to the one I want to kind of hone into, which is a person who manipulates others for personal gain. A person who uses a relationship with someone only in order to get some advantage for themselves. And then the second version was law, the continued use or enjoyment of a right. Now, I thought that was interesting because typically believing something is someone's right is what encourages them or permits them or gives them their own permission to use others. It's almost that belief that I deserve this. And I thought that was interesting because it's that sort of twisting in our minds that really leads to that user mentality, right? I deserve this. This is for me. I'm good enough, or I'm supposed to have this. Think of all the millennials out there. Yeah. Talking to some people. And they're like, man, if I'm working for less than $60,000 a year, I'm just worth more. I don't have any experience, but I know more than you. And of course, I deserve at least $100,000. But I'll start a little less, give you a break until you promote me. I have a brother-in-law who he's not a brother-in-law, step-brother. Sorry. Don't laugh. I'm nervous. I have a stepbrother who quit a job after 6 months because he was only promoted once in that time frame and not more than that, even though he started off with like killer money. And it's like, yeah, working, you're just lucky I showed up. Like, of course you should promote me. I made it on time today. And I started thinking about all the problems with users, right? One of them being no one really likes to be around users. Imagine that. We don't like to be used. Who knew? People who only come around when it's convenient for them. And that just makes them tolerable at best, right? And in our minds, like, I'm not going to ask you to tell me who these users are in your life, but you think of them and you're like, yeah, that's them. That's them. And I mean, I've had my fair share. People coming around and using me. What sucks even worse is having users come and use my family members or people I love and care about. Oh, that hurts me, and it bothers me to no end, right? And there's nothing I can do about it because they allow it in their lives. So I just have to sit and watch it and be like, yeah, that sucks. Can't do anything about it, but you could. And then the other problem with users is they stay away, right, until they need something. You don't hear from them when they don't want anything. You don't hear from them when they're like, hey, guess what? I thought of you today. Here's this. No, we don't. Another problem with them is the expectation that everyone else's problems, everyone else's lives should kind of evolve around them. So whenever they have an issue come up, it's only them, right? So I know different people, and like think of those pool seekers, right? It's Texas, it's hot. When people get a pool, then all of a sudden, everybody's your best friend. The neighbors suddenly come out of the woodwork. They've never talked to you before, and now, hey, my kids, they're hot. They should come swimming. They could come to your house. Or like if you need a ride and stuff, it's like, hey, I need a ride. I'm telling you right now, and I need the ride right now. You should drop everything. Like, you work? Too bad. You're busy. You're doing errands. You're taking care of your life, your kids, your personal deals. But don't you know I need a ride? Or those people who they stop and have you ever been invited over to somebody's house who's like, you're going to cook and clean for me? Does it make sense? It's ridiculous. Yeah. See what I'm talking about, Mike? But of course, we don't have users here. Not at Ardent, right? Not here. That's cute. Or the other problem with users, right? They teach others to be users. It's like this cycle that's never ending, right? And you know them because it's like they're users, their parents were users, now their kids are users. It's just goes on and on and on. And from the outside looking in, it's like, how do you not see this? But it just doesn't stop. And it's almost like this weird monkey see, monkey do. So family members are using family members, friends are using friends. And unless I benefit somehow, I don't need to be around you. Right? And, I get it. I don't want to be friends with people who I don't get anything out of the relationship. But another problem with these users are they're convincing. They're very convincing. They wrote the book on manipulation. Poor, pitiful me. Man, my life is so bad, and you don't even know the half of it. Have you ever met somebody who always has one of those one-up stories? Yeah, kind of like that. Or they're coming to you, and it's like, man, you just don't know the pressure I'm under. You don't know how much stress and anxiety it's causing me, whether it's work or family, friends, situations in life. There's always something. And it's always up here, the priority level and how extreme it is. It's never like, hey, I can see where I may be over exaggerating a little. It's like, no. It's 90 to nothing all the time, every time there's something going on in their lives. And then, back to that manipulation part, whenever you don't drop everything to help these users, then they turn it around on you. How can you call yourself a Christian? You're not helping people in time of need. or one of my favorites, if you don't help me, you must not really love me. Yeah. I mean, they can turn on that guilt and turn everything and twist everything. It's like you don't see all the other things I did for you, but this one time I can't help you out or can't help you out right now. Now it's I've never done anything for you, don't love you, don't care about you, and suddenly I'm a bad person for not helping you. Yeah. Those conversations are super fun to have. And then another problem with users is, that's a little close, they don't have to be in lack of anything. Like sometimes we think of this, hey, users are like poverty-style people. No. People with affluence or wealth can be just as bad of a user as anyone else. Like there's no stipulation, there's no requirements. You know, they don't take these courses, they just are. And it's frustrating because when users get something from you or other people, it's never enough. Have y'all ever noticed that? Never enough. Tomorrow it's something else, or it could have been more. You know, I needed gas money. You only gave me 20. I know you could have given me a bit more. I know you have it. It's not like you have a job and worked hard for what you've got. I need it more than you. And they're the ones that like will suck you dry too. Have y'all ever experienced one of those relationships where it's not only it's never enough, but they pull and pull and pull out of you and take and take and take till there's nothing left. You are exhausted emotionally, mentally, sometimes physically. Like the demands are always really, really high. Always high. And then another problem with these users are they're just fine with using, even if they know they're doing it. Like, have y'all ever met anybody like that? It's like they know. They're okay with it though. There's no guilt, there's no shame. It's astonishing. I don't even understand it. Like, I can't even conceptualize using people like I've seen some of these users use, and how okay with it they are in their lives, and they don't even have a second thought about it. It's weird. It's weird. And then they're good with the lip service, right? The problem with users, they will tell you whatever they think you want to hear to get what they want. You know, sometimes they'll use those, I just love you so much. I'd do anything for you. Till you actually call them up and it's like, I'm busy. Have you ever noticed, too, that they don't have time to sit and listen to your problems without changing the conversation back to them? You sit down and they're kind of telling you, and it's like, oh, yeah, and you'll start to share, too, and then they somehow always can segue it back to them, no matter what the conversation is. It could be your own kids, and they're like, but did you know? Somehow that reminded me of me again, and my problems. Or, I remember, my husband, he had a brain tumor, right? Hospital bed. But some user could be like, but did you know? I don't want to hear about that because it's not me. It's not about me, this, right? And then another problem with the users is sometimes they don't know that they're users. Even whenever you've tried to tell them, have you ever tried to have a conversation with them and like point it out to a friend? Hey, have you ever noticed like it's always about you? I did that once, right? I was young and I had this friend and she was all about her. And I kind of pointed it out. I'm like, hey, do you realize like it's always about you, what you want to do? And her answer was yes, but it's not always the case. And essentially, I don't know. Whenever they don't believe they're users, they get real defensive. And typically will start arguments with you, right? Or they'll blow up and go all crazy. I have an aunt like that. She'll get real irate and get real loud and hands everywhere, and she's coming at you. Yeah, you better watch what you tell this aunt because she'll take you down. But yeah, that seems to be more often the case. There's a few who it's like, hey, yeah, master manipulators, they know what they're doing. Jared was telling me about some guy who, I don't know, robbed the U.S. government by playing hostage, and got away with it, and sent all these letters to the FBI, taunting them about it. I mean, he knew he was using. But we're not always sending letters to the FBI like, hey, you're so stupid, No, sometimes these users are like, that's not me. I'm so great of a person. Yeah. None of them are sitting in this room here either. Like, no, none of us, right? We're the holy ones. We're the saved ones. And then the problem, really big problem with users, is that, sucks for y'all guys, but I'm one of them. Yeah, I guess who came to listen to me today? And if we're honest, right, we'd be hard-pressed to find someone who isn't a user to some degree. If we're actually open and honest with ourselves. Now, do we always align with what other people say we're using and what we think we are? No, typically not. And that's where that whole mentality of, don't even talk to me. You have no idea comes in. It's that real defensive. We're just not even going to talk about it. I'm cutting you off. Nothing you say is going to penetrate because I've already stopped listening. Yeah. We're fun users. And then we get shocked when people do use others or when we get used ourselves. Have y'all ever noticed that? Like, we'll be like, yeah, the world's full of users. And then whenever we get used, we're like, can you believe it? Can you believe they treated me this way? Or they acted like that after I did all this for them? I find that kind of ironic. I don't know if y'all do, but we do. We look at the world and we're like, it's so bad. It's full of awful people. And then we get shocked when bad, awful things happen, especially if it happens to us. Because, it happens to other people we don't know. It's like, yeah. Happens to us, we tell everybody. And we got to make sure that no one else gets used like we got used by those users. But why do we use, right, is probably a bigger question. Not, hey, are we? Because the answer is yes. And if you think the answer is no, you're wrong. Too bad. You can be an ostrich and bury your head out in the sand all day long, but it still doesn't change the fact that you do it, right? To some degree. And we like to put our scale on, right? Well, it's not as bad as so-and-so. But typically it happens because our heart motive isn't right, right? We wouldn't treat people like that if we loved and actually cared about them. So let's change our hearts, right? Let's be good people. But what are we using God for? Yeah, no one saw that coming, did they? Are we trying to talk to God and it's like, hey, I'm sick. I need healing. Are we trying to use God for hell insurance? Yeah, we just don't want to go to hell, so we good? Yeah, okay. Some people want wealth. Some people want their finances fixed. What about relationships, man? We use God for our relationship problems like nobody's business. If we don't have the relationship in our life that we want, like a spouse, we're like, God, send me a godly man or a godly woman. I've been doing all the right things. I'm alone. Or friends, you know. Have you ever met anyone who's like changed churches just to have better friends, or started going to church for friends, or going to church for that spouse? Yeah. No blows. I thought I was harsh today. Here's the one I hear the most, though. God, if you will just change my spouse. They are not acting right. They're not treating me right. They are not acting like good husbands or good wives or children. God, change these hellion children. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Oh, I'll pray for them. And we do. But it's always like, hey, you know how bad they are. You know what they've done. You know what they're doing. Check. You see what I'm dealing with, God? You see this husband you sent me? Got you. Or what about those quick fixes? I am the biggest proponent of wanting God to fix things in my life in a timely manner. You know, if we get in this tight situation, it's a rough spot, and I'm looking at the clock like, come on. Like, if you don't do something in 09, we're going to be in trouble. Or we want to just have this easy breezy life. We don't ever want obstacles. Imagine that. What? Strife? Work? Ugh. I became a believer so that I didn't have to worry about those things. God's so full of love. My life should be rainbows and unicorns all day long. The life of Taylor. Anyone knows Taylor? The life of Taylor is rainbows and unicorns all day. And we go to God all the time. And we say, Dear Christopher St. Nick, here's my wish list. And I need you to get it done quickly. Because I've been good all year. I'm so frustrated about this. I'm so hurt about that. Man, and I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And we give God our lists time and time again. Over and over and over. And we treat our God like Santa Claus. Now does it make sense? Took a while. Yeah. Eventually the dots get connected here. It just takes a while in my brain. Or what about like God's house? What are we using God's house for? The amazing coffee with red oak water. Child care. I get a break from my kids for 2 hours. Do we use them or use this place to be able to show off our gifts and talents? Like, I can sing so well. Stiff. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Anyone who knows Steph knows that is not the case. Not her heart at all. Or I get to play my mad musician skills. You know, I don't know. I'm not a musician. This is all I got. Thank you. I'm a professional. Yeah. What about using God's house as a place to go to hear somebody else's dedication and their time that they took to study so we don't have to? Yeah. Man, it's a lot of work. Ain't nobody got time for that. So, but we do. It sounds bad, but it is bad. So there we go. We come to God and treat him, we come like little brats, and treat him like he's our Santa Claus over and over and over. 9 times out of 10, and I'm not saying people don't have relationships, but 9 times out of 10, our go-to is, fix this, God. Give me, God. Change this, God. And then we've got like our two seconds of thanks. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Now, man, the day that I had, though, God, it's nothing in comparison to our lists every time we go to God. The time that we spend to give thanks or praise, to worship, to give gratitude, it's minuscule. It's not very time consuming. And I'm not talking about that time where it's like, I'm studying to know more about you. I'm just talking about that like one-on-one, we're having conversations. And I've watched it happen, I've done it myself, to where it's like, man, now I'm out of stuff. What else? I've got a shopping list I need to create and a to-do list a mile long. And then now I'm thinking about all kinds of other things that I need to work on and handle. But my thanks, my gratitude, just going to God, to be, it's so small in comparison of our wish list, our Christmas list. And just in case anyone in here is thinking, that's not me, silly. Tricks are for kids. We seek his hand over and over. Every problem that comes our way, we seek his hand. Fix it. Fix him. Fix her. Fix my boss. Fix my finances. Fix my health. Fix. Change. By the way, you're so good when it happens. Shout out, right? But reminding us that we're users, it's correction. Again, it's not condemnation. It's correction. Our minds, our focus, our hearts have to continue changing to be more and more like his, the more and more like he would have us think, so that we can do the things he would have us do. But when we're so self-absorbed and thinking about ourselves and our Christmas list, that's a big portion as to why whenever it's taught that heaven on earth is possible, and a lot of us question it because you're like, have you met these people? Why it doesn't become achievable. If we're thinking about us and what we want, and our problems, and our situation, and our lives, and all the things that we've got going on, all the things that we need to do, and we're not thinking about how we need to be thinking more like him and doing more like him, spending time with him, then yeah, we fall real short at bringing heaven on earth. Real short. This past December, whenever we were in Belize, my father-in-law, Dwayne, he was talking about how the relationships the relationship struggles, I should say, that he's encountered have been different from the U.S., right? There's still relationship struggles, but different. And he was talking to someone about how to have a relationship, right? And we can call anything a relationship, but it doesn't mean it is one, right? Think of our user friends. That's not a real relationship. It doesn't go both ways, okay? And he's like, so we have a relationship with God like we're married to someone that we don't call, we don't text, and we don't come home for weeks at a time and expect it to be good? I was like, that's an interesting thought. No, Jared couldn't get away with that for a day and us be okay. Not one day. And yet we go days, weeks, months, sometimes longer, without a real relationship. Not this, I'm just going to God, Santa Claus, help me out. But like a real relationship. I'm spending quality time. Not just knowing who you are and seeking you, but spending that time with prayer that doesn't involve me. And we romanticize Scripture. Everyone wants to be that one that God leaves the 99 for. I'm a damsel in distress. Come save me, God, from all my life's problems. And we always think like we deserve it too. Like that really is the mentality. He loves us. We're so great. I'm his pride and joy. I'm daddy's favorite. Right? And in reality, all of the parables that we've been learning about, that Jesus has been teaching over and over and over, he's like, yeah, those are the non-believers, fool. You said you believe. Get to work. Over and over and over. Whenever we did our little illustration with the light, mine's bigger than y'all's were. And we were like, hey, it's a reminder to focus on God. And how the act of taking it everywhere we go and the hassle that brought me. And then to go, thank you, God. I'm thinking about you and what you want for my life in the midst of everything I do, my day-to-day activities, my interaction with my kids, movie nights, work. I'm supposed to be focusing. But instead, we're like, I did something good today. I'm shining my light. Yep, you need some help? Let me shine my light. No. That's not what he was saying. He's saying focus. Stop getting distracted by everything. I really was hoping my kids would be here whenever I actually taught this, because I was going to have like silly string, but instead they're not, so it doesn't make much sense. But it's really like life is this present of bows, all right? Now you can take the example and mean it to be, hey, these are the good things that are happening in life, or all the bad things that are happening in life. Each apply, because whenever I'm like, yeah, and then I'm looking and I get so distracted with everything else, and I stop focusing on him and our relationship together, good or bad, it doesn't matter. It was my distraction. As you can see, self-inflicted distraction, 9 times out of 10. Because, again, we're not romanticizing this, people. The devil's not always after us. Oh, my gosh, he just wants me. No. He's not chasing all of us around going, I need your soul because you're so important to the kingdom of God. No. He's saying, fool, you're distracted in the presence, and you're distracted in the problems. I don't need a job. Like, you worked me out of it. Or what about the sower in the foregrounds? Whenever we were taught about that and we got to see the nice, beautiful, lush ground. It's green. It's been worked. It's been plowed. It's been taken care of. It's beautifully manicured. And we're like, that's us on our good days. And then we look across and see the fields and how they have the weeds and it's all tangled up. And it's like, and that's me on my bad day. You know, I have some offs. But God loves me. And then we look at the pebble side where essentially our hearts have turned to rocks. Because every time someone disappoints us, every time someone hurts us, every time we're let down, every time we're used, every time we, me, my heart hardens to people. And I start keeping them at arm's length. And I start putting up my walls. But it doesn't look as pretty, so we don't put ourselves in that part of the story. Or what about the one that everyone walks down? It's trodden. Like, have you ever seen grass, and it's a dirt road, but not an intentional dirt road? Kind of like some of those hiking trails where people actually hike. Yeah, there's been a few. It's like no one has been here in years. Like, this isn't a trail anymore. It's a forest of weeds. But how did that good ground get so good? It took work. And it wasn't one time, and it wasn't one day, and it wasn't 1 hour. It was day after day after day, week after week, month after month, the daily grind. And it's exhausting. It's back-breaking. It's uncomfortable. It's hot. Think about all those people that we're supposed to be, like, serving. Yeah, if you didn't know, God wants us to serve his people. And we're like, but I don't like them. They just rub me the wrong way. Can't I go for the easy one? They just don't listen. I've had to tell them over and over and over and over, I'm just done. Yeah, but that's the daily grind. That's the work that we're supposed to be doing outside in our everyday lives. And yet, we don't manage that here. I don't want to say hi to them. And all of us get so happy with that, oh, build our house on the rock. We're the wise men because we believe in Jesus. Yep. I feel like that's just too easy. Like, really? We think we're there? We think we're the wise ones? It's easy to be like, yeah, you're building on sand, so-and-so. Yeah, it's not going to work. No. But we're over here in the sand building our own. Like, yeah, sandcastles are fun. And then I keep going back to the first, I think it was one of the first parables that we talked about, which was the maidens who had oil in their lamp, and they were basically supposed to prepare the way for the groom, and he hasn't arrived yet. So they're like, hey, we're going to take our oil, and we're going to go wait for him out there and then lead him back to the camp where he's supposed to be. You know, he's busy. He's got things to do. And then they're like, okay, let's go. But we get out there, and some of them didn't prepare. Hey, give me some of your oil. What are those test questions? I need your answers. Did you take notes today? I didn't. Give me your notes. And I was actually thinking that would really be a sucky scenario to physically encounter. Like, I'm a maiden, and they're sending me out with other ladies, all right, in the wilderness with no protection, and we don't have tents. We don't have anything but our little lamp, and we're supposed to be waiting for these strangers to come. It's like, I haven't met them yet, but hey, I'm supposed to take them here. How am I supposed to know this is the right person? That takes a lot of diligence, a lot of preparation, maybe a lot of conversations. I'm getting sidetracked. Or the people, the 10 men who were healed, right? And all 9 of them, or actually they all went off, and they're like, yeah, I'm amazing health now. And then one was like, hey, oh my God, I got healed. Like, light bulb. Let me go. Thank God. Novel concept. And what's interesting about that story is that was an amazing thing that happened, right? There were gifts all over. And I got so distracted by my gift that I forgot to thank God. And we're supposed to thank him when crap is happening to us? Our lives are in shambles. Like, we hardly remember to do it for the good things. We run out so quickly. And then the one who, he came back and he was made whole. And in that text it said, found salvation. Heaven on earth. Who knew? He made it. He got it for a second. Or that fruit of the Spirit. That's always a fun one. We're so quick to judge whenever people in the church aren't acting right or doing what we think they're supposed to be doing. Right? Like, they know better. Okay? They were sitting there last week. I saw them. Or they weren't, and they know better too. And yet, we're supposed to be using these gifts all the time. And yet, we can't do it in the church. Has anyone thought about that? There's only a select few people who teach and then play and worship and then teach the children and then clean. And everybody else just comes to enjoy. But we're supposed to all use the gifts and talents in our lives, the callings that God's placed in our lives, not just in here, but outside of these 4 walls. We can't even do it when we've dedicated the time. And yet we want to convince ourselves and tell ourselves, but we'll do it out there. That's where God's called me. Mm-hmm. All the messages as different as they are, have been the same message. Like Jared says, we're thick-headed people. It takes us a while to get it, to grasp it, to understand it. He's saying, listen and do. We really should stop playing games with God and treating him like Santa Claus. He said, seek my face, the relationship with me, not my hand, not all the things I can do for you. And he's saying, stay holy. What does that mean? Constant, consistent, dedicated. We have a hard time doing that just at our jobs on a daily basis. And that's required to make money and survive. And yet, we'll play around with it and dabble with it. But what is that scripture? I'd rather you hot or cold. Or if you're lukewarm, I'll spew you out. He's constantly saying, get to work. Be constant. Be diligent. Don't stop. Your belief isn't doing anything. Your actions are. And how do we get those actions? It's not because we got a set of rules. It's because our hearts and minds are supposed to be first and foremost changed, conformed, transformed by the renewing of our minds. To be not like ourselves, not how we think, not what we like or dislike, but like God. But we don't spend time with him other than to say, gimme. I sent you my list in the mail. Did you get it? We all want to hear God at the end of the road tell us, well done, thy good and faithful servants. Yeah, don't lie. You want to hear it. Even if you don't think you deserve to hear it or you will hear it, you still want to hear it. But is it going to be more like, depart from me, I never knew you? You just sent me your wish list every now and then, and it's like, who the hell is Tommy? But we believe, like, I'm overall a good person. I've been in church all my life. I know all this stuff. We deserve it. But we're users. Are you really a good and faithful servant? Are you really constant, consistent, and dedicated? Are you really thankful? Are you really listening to what he's saying to do and doing it? Are we actually taking what he says and have for our lives and applying it? Not just when it's convenient. And he never said it was easy. Now, it's not complicated. Like Jared always says, it's not complicated. But it does take work. There should be lots of people filling every single church, every single body of believers. Lots of them teachers. Lots of preachers. Lots of people using their gifts, talents. In different ways. It shouldn't be a select few. And then it should be lots of people taking those same gifts and using them in their daily lives. I don't know, it's almost like learning how to live our lives like an act of worship. And then, through that, salvation. Heaven here on earth. But instead, we've built a congregation of Pharisees and users and manipulators. Yeah, that's us. And we build these games of celebrity pastors and hierarchies of holiness and have people come to our bodies of believers and go, can you pray for me? Because I know God hears your voice. I don't know about you, but that's kind of terrifying. Like, you believe in the same God as me, or think you do, but you think it's going to take me to get you what you need? Have you met me? Mm-hmm. We're flawed. But it's okay if we're trying. I look around and I'll say this. I'll speak from just personal experience. I have my ups and downs, right? I have the times where I stay more dedicated, I stay more focused, and I have times where I'm not. And most of the time, being a user, I give myself grace. And I'm like, but my life is so busy right now, or I've got this going on, or, I understand this. But have you ever thought what it must be like to be on the receiving end? Like, if you're God and you have a whole group of believers and like 98% of them only ever seek you for what you can do for them, and how heartbreaking it is. Like, if my husband, the person I love more than anyone else on this planet, only ever sought me out to use me constantly, it would break my heart over and over and over. And how heartbreaking is it that he can give, do, and just ask for you in return, just to love me in return. And us be like, yeah, once I get that new iPhone. Or we don't take it we take it for granted. Or we don't take our roles and responsibilities seriously. Like, someone else will cover it. It's okay if I'm late. No one else's time is as important as mine. I don't need to practice. I don't need to worry about teaching. They don't understand what I'm talking about anyways. How often do we not give our best? Constantly and consistently. Man, we're dedicated at not giving our best. I'll just clean just enough, It's a spot clean, it's good. It's supposed to be a house of God. It should be better than anything else, but yeah, it'll pass. Or the kids, like, every missed opportunity to teach these kids that we have just let fly by. I'll look at the lesson the morning of 10 minutes prior. That's my best. But you'd be pissed if we didn't prepare or study, or Jared didn't prepare or study for a Sunday. You mean you did nothing? What am I wasting my time here for? You didn't do your job? Or as prayer people, we don't pray the week of or even the morning of. But whenever I go to somebody else needing prayer, I'm like, sorry. Or you just give this half-ass, I said this for the last person and it worked well, so here it goes again. We don't give our best. Those are our actions. Those are our fruits. That's our light. That's the ground we're building our houses on. Inconsistency. And yet we constantly look for all the gifts that we can receive. in Matthew chapter 7, whenever it says, "So whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them, for this is the law and the prophets. Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few." Why are we so naive to always think we're one of those few? I had a friend telling me about one of her beliefs. I guess it's getting more popular, and it's where certain people are just once saved, always saved. But even if they don't say they're saved, God has picked certain ones that they're saved no matter what. It's this weird concept that it's like you could be a believer and you could say that you're going to be saved, but really you're not. And I told my husband, I was like, it's funny. I'd have more time to just sit and listen to nonsense like that if any one of those people who say that's their faith said, "But I'm one of those not making it, and I'm still going to believe and do what I'm supposed to be doing." We don't do that. We always think we're the chosen. We're the few. We're the proud. And then it reminds me of the poem that Jared likes to quote by Robert Frost, "The Road Not Taken." "Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other, just as fair, and perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that, the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how ways lead to one back, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference." Poets and philosophers, they all get it. It's not saying that the road to salvation is complicated. It's saying it takes work. Work and more work and more work. You wouldn't treat your spouse the way we treat God. You wouldn't treat your own home or family members or things you love the way we typically do of God's things. And I remember listening to a conversation that was had this week about heaven on earth, and do we actually believe it's possible, right? And the conversation went on, and they're like, well, maybe it could be. I mean, because at first the answer was like, no, there's no heaven on earth. It's not possible. And then it went down to, but do we say we believe what we believe then? Like, if we actually believe God's word and what he's telling us, that we can have heaven here on earth. I mean, otherwise, what are we doing, right? Picking and choosing what scriptures work for us? Not that again. And as it transpired, the conversation tilted to, well, yeah, but I just don't know how we'd get other people to change. And that's the issue, isn't it? We're always looking at changing everyone else. But God never said change everybody else. He said change your heart, your mind, your actions. That's how we do it. If a body of believers could come together and say, I'm working on me, That's it. You and me, God. Stay focused on you. Then we could actually make real change. But a lot of times we don't want to work on us. We want God to work on them. We want God to give us, yes, give me, please. But we don't want God to work on us. That correction's for them. You've met them, right? Each of the stories that I just referenced, Jared's taught on in immense detail throughout this fall series. So if one of the statements I made didn't quite make sense or didn't click, you may need to review it or listen to it for the first time. Because these aren't just child tale fables. They're not just great children's songs. And they're not this story of a dramatic plot where the princess is captured, the damsel in distress, and he's going all out, and it's all about her, and I'm going to get her and save her. Or him, you know. The damsels could be men nowadays. Yeah, you're welcome. No, we want to think of ourselves as the pride and joy. And he's getting letters from us like, who is this? Because we're users. I'm guilty of it. Far too often I'm guilty of it. But guess what I can do about it? I can work on it. I can take what he said and try to apply it to my life. Novel concept, right? And I can stop worrying about everybody else. All the people in our lives that keeps us focused on everything else. My spouse, my spouse, my spouse, my kids, my kids, my kids, my job, my job, my job, my what, blah, 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 blah. All those things that we put in the forefront of our minds constantly and consistently. Oh, we're dedicated about that. And say, focus on him. Focus on your relationship with him. He'll tell you how you need to change, if you need to change, what you need to change, when you need to change it. He'll tell you what to do, what to think. It's not a list of rules and behaviors. It's a heart change. But the first step is admittal. I'm making up new words now, too. It's admitting it. Saying, yep, but I'm not worrying about them. No matter how much they use me, no matter how much they continue to hurt me, my focus will be me and him. But you don't know the hurts and pains they've caused. You're right, I don't. I don't care either. Because that's not your focus. That's not your priority. So if we're going to be those people that in these stories are doing the right things, like the servants with the talents, and he gave them each different quantities, instead of being like, God, you gave them more than me. And actually worried about, hey, he gave me a job, I'm going to do that job. And I'm not going to slack on the job. I'm not going to fall short. I'm going to keep working even when no one else is watching. I'm going to keep working even now, giving my best. I'm tired of using my God like he's Santa Claus And I'll say this too. If you don't think that us as believers do that, you are sorely mistaken. If you look and take a child who believes in Santa Claus and say, that's not me. Have you ever given him a wish list? Probably. Have you ever thought, if I don't get what I prayed for, and I prayed super hard this week, then I'm on the naughty list. He's mad at me. I've done something wrong. Or have we ever said, my prayers aren't being answered. God, are you even real? My faith is shaken. I didn't get what I wanted. It must be like a fictional character. Us Christians look a lot like little bratty children worshiping a fake Santa Claus. And our God is saying, get to work. You're not that one in the 99. You said you believe me. You said I'm the Lord. Do what I said to do. Work. Have a relationship with me. Don't just use me. Be constant, consistent with your relationship. Not somebody else's relationship. Not telling them all their flaws. Not telling them how they should be better. Not telling them what they need to fix, what they need to change in order to not hurt me, to make me more comfortable, to make me feel better about me. That's not how relationships work. You want to be loved unconditionally? Love unconditionally. Did you get the signal? No. That was a signal. If y'all stand and join me for prayer. Nothing I said was new. Nothing I said was earth-shattering. It's just a reminder, because we forget so easily. And it starts with that relationship, that time, and not the time where you're giving him your list, the time when you're spending quality time, thanking him for all that he's done, praising him, worshiping him, spending time with him. And if we don't do it and make time here, again, it's like our gifts. We're not going to use them out there. We're not going to do it out there. So I invite you today to worship and spend time. Take this correction and don't come over here and be like, I'm not listening. And don't come over here and say, I'm going to wallow it. I'm not, poor, pitiful me. I'm so horrible. No, neither of those are true. Neither of those are right. Come and say, got some work to do on me. No one else but me. And I'm going to do the work. I'm not going to write lists. I'm not going to keep asking for more.